Welcome, I'm Nina Gryphon, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel. Today we'll talk about the astrology forecast for March 2024. First off, I wanted to say thank you to my patrons. If you would like to become a patron and get early and exclusive access to astrological and magical content, please go to patreon.com/NinaGryphon. At the highest tier, you can get access to my monthly magical elections document, which tells you exactly how and when to make astrological talismans every month of the year. For a quick preview, in March, the temperature starts to rise, not only literally but also in the world. We are more likely to see the manifestations of Jupiter conjoining Uranus, which bring violence, extreme depravity, but also new inventions and scientific advancements. The most dramatic aspect this month will likely be Mars squaring Uranus March 9th, but the new moon at 20 Pisces is itself no slouch for transforming previously held beliefs about the nature of reality. The month finishes with a lunar eclipse at 5 Libra, which brings a surprising amount of opportunity and a chance to make positive changes in the world at large. March 3rd, we've got Venus at 19 Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus. Venus is activating the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, having squared Jupiter a week or so prior to this. Venus in particular doesn't resonate with the disruptive Jupiter and Uranus energy, and when they are combined, as here, we can get disruptions of our ability to coexist. Sometimes this can indicate big events like protests for human rights and tolerance, which are fundamentally Venusian. On a personal level, making peace or finding compromise will be challenging around March 3rd, and if we put ourselves in the role of Venus, the harmonizing force, we could run up against obstacles now. March 8th, Mercury at 27 Pisces conjoins Neptune. This is challenging territory for Mercury, and information obtained through left brain channels, what we might call normal means, is going to be unreliable. Mercury in Pisces is already very mystical and favors the quality of the story over strict adherence to facts or even usefulness, and the combination with Neptune will just be overwhelming. Instead, it's better to use this time for creativity, fantasy, and developing ideas that aren't required to adhere to commonly accepted reality. March 8th, we get the evening rise of Mercury at 27 Pisces. The very same day then, March 8th, Mercury rises out of the sun's beams into the light and into full view. It's important that as Mercury becomes fully visible, a moment of great empowerment for a planet called phases, what emerges often shows us what the next cycle of the planet will be. What emerges now probably isn't factually true, but it may be revealing in a deeper or mythical way. This is the kind of truth that needs to be interpreted, and whatever comes into view now is true like poetry is true. It's certainly a good opportunity to share one's creativity and fantastic ideas with the world. March 9th, Mars at 19 Aquarius squares Uranus in Taurus, which is this month's most disruptive aspect because it involves a superior planet, Mars, activating Uranus. Mars squared Jupiter about 10 days earlier, and now he is completing the translation of light and bringing Jupiter and Uranus together by proxy. Needless to say, Mars with Uranus is a highly volatile and destabilizing aspect with potential for violence. Certainly it will manifest in an extreme and dramatic way. However, this aspect is also a danger to Mars, who himself may be harmed or drastically reorganized around now. Mars does not have the monopoly on violence, and Uranus may simply be more chaotic than Mars. It is not a good time to take on the role of Mars, so do not stir things up and create a volatile atmosphere. March 9th, Mercury enters Aries. Mercury benefits primarily here by leaving Pisces, his sign of detriment and fall. Mercury doesn't have much dignity in Aries, so he's at the tender mercies of his dispositor, Mars, who is being highly disruptive and violent right now. It's best to assume that Mercury will not be at his best while in Aries, at least not while Mars passes through Aquarius. Mercury will take on the traits of aggression, confrontation, and destruction for its own sake now. March 10th, we get a new moon at 20 degrees Pisces. This new moon partakes of the heavy combination beginning to form between Saturn and Neptune. While those planets are still out of orb, the new moon mediates between them here and activates their conjunction by translation. Saturn and Neptune are a theme that we will see more of in the coming months and years. We are a bit early for it now, but one of its manifestations tends to be the transformation of political and social structures, especially in places that are deemed highly oppressive. Street protests are a common event associated with Saturn and Neptune, so needless to say, the following 2 weeks could be quite lively in the streets of selected locales. The ruling planet of this lunation is Jupiter, who is in Taurus, sextile Saturn, the lunation, and conjoining Uranus. So the feeling of disruption, especially associated with economic factors, is now quite strong. Markets might wobble now as well. March 11th, Venus enters Pisces, which is the sign of her exaltation, and this is generally positive because Venus can now express her qualities in the most heightened, artistic, and spiritually elevating manner. However, she is currently besieged between Mars and Saturn, and while being exalted helps her a little, she is quite afflicted for now. Venusian qualities may be highly refined and beautiful now, but they are as if imprisoned or unable to express themselves until Venus passes through the conjunction with Saturn later in the month. Starting around March 15th, Venus will also be in orb of a sextile from Jupiter, which is set to break or at least alleviate the affliction of being besieged. But given that bodily besiegement is such a powerful factor, the Jupiter sextile is likely only an assist and not full liberation from the oppression under which Venus currently labors. March 16th, Saturn has his morning rise at 11 Pisces. For a few weeks, Saturn went to the great beauty spot in the sky. He underwent profound purging and cleansing in the solar furnace during his conjunction with the Sun. Now he rises with tremendous power. This is the moment to announce new boundaries, new structures, renewal of anything that is old, as Saturn rules old things and old people. Announcements of new initiatives made now carry a great deal of gravitas, and they are more likely to last as well, since Saturn rules everything of long duration. March 17th, the Sun at 27 Pisces conjoins Neptune. Similarly to Mercury conjoining Neptune, the Sun here tends to obscure truth, whether through straight-up falsehood or simply the veil of metaphor. It's kind of like the sun on a cloudy day. The source of light is there somewhere if you know where to look. In any case, you will need to put on your interpretive hat, and even so, don't be too sure that you have found the truth. Once the conjunction passes, we will be able to see more clearly. March 18th, Mercury at 15 Aries conjoins the North Node. In Vedic astrology, this combination is challenging for Mercury, as the North Node, or Rahu, tends to pollute planets conjoining it. Mercury is the planet of education, communication, business, and even relating to others, so this combination could be quite difficult for Mercury. Any deals or educational work done now might seem somewhat tainted around this time, so it's best to wait until Mercury and the node are out of orb, which should take just a few days. We might hear about a public figure or dirty business deal at this time as well. March 19th, the Sun enters Aries, and this is this Aries ingress, when the Sun enters the first degree of the first sign and the astrological new year begins. In the Persian culture, this is still celebrated as the New Year, so a shout out to the Persians for being astrologically on point. The horoscope for this moment shows the events in a given location for the upcoming 12 months. This merits a video all of its own, so I will not go into that in great detail here, but suffice it to say that the Moon opposes Pluto in this chart, which does bring the potential for violence and confrontation that requires us to examine our values and answer those challenges with equal determination. Venus is also besieged in this chart, and though she is exalted and enjoys the sextile of Jupiter, she brings a sense of oppression to Venusian people and lands, especially those living on islands, peninsulas, swamps, or in other watery areas. The Moon does make a trine to the Sun, which is quite positive and harmonizing, and Venus has the sextile of Jupiter, so there are opportunities for unity and progress, and it's not a completely bleak picture. However, this may be one of those years when we look at world events and simply shake our heads. So stay tuned for my upcoming video on what this year will bring. March 21st, Venus at 12 degrees Pisces conjoins Saturn. Venus with Saturn in Pisces often brings a great deal of cold and moisture, which could show up as rain, snow, or fog, or some combination of those. We can get several days of gloomy and heavy conditions with high humidity when we get Venus and Saturn in a water sign like this. On an emotional level, Venus is not very free to express herself either romantically or artistically, instead favoring a critical perspective and emotional distance. It's not the best time to declare our feelings or artistic vision to the world, but instead it's better to critically examine these areas of our lives, whether it's an artistic project or a relationship. After today, though, Venus will be out of her besiegement by the malefics because she has spent the last several weeks between Mars and Saturn, a highly malefic condition for a planet, making it very hard for it to express itself. It's sometimes described as being between a rock and a hard place, and the conjunction with Saturn essentially shows that this is going to be over for Venus. March 22nd, Mars enters Pisces. This will likely manifest in areas of water, coastal areas, and in any issues related to water and marine life. This transit is positive in that Mars will not be making any hard aspects to Jupiter or Uranus, only the relatively weak and harmonious sextile aspect. Mars governs the watery triplicity, so he has some dignity in Pisces, although this is not enough to make him act better, but he can be more subdued and crafty in Pisces rather than overtly aggressive. On a personal level, diplomacy, tact, and frankly, underhanded dealings are going to be more successful than overt conflict now. March 24th, Venus at 15 Pisces will sextile Jupiter in Taurus. As far as sextile aspects go, this one is quite powerful because Venus is highly dignified, now out of besiegement, and she is in mutual reception with Jupiter. So there's a clear opportunity to make something positive happen and to take advantage of our connections and gifts to create a situation that benefits everyone. And as they say in the corporate world, it grows the pie instead of just grabbing a larger slice for oneself. Going into the next day's lunar eclipse, it's a hopeful aspect to have baked into the eclipse horoscope since Venus will be the ruler of the eclipse. So with that, let's talk about March 25th when we have a penumbral lunar eclipse at 5 Libra. Since Venus rules the eclipse and she is in quite excellent shape, we could expect this eclipse to have an emboldening and strengthening effect on Venusian people, women, the LGBTQ community, artists, and so forth. The lunar axis itself doesn't have hard aspects to it, so Venus's activity is going to be primary here. With her mutual reception and sextile to Jupiter, who by the way is now less than 5 degrees from its conjunction with Uranus, there is an opportunity for a quantum leap or a sudden growth that presents itself if we can simply grasp it. The impact now could be on the markets because Libra, among other things, rules the markets, but also the weather because Libra is an air sign, so the weather could be a bit extreme and disturbed around now. Now, eclipses are important enough to deserve their own videos, and I will be releasing one with more details in March. Thanks for watching. I'm Nina Gryphon, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel.